All right, it looks like our numbers have pretty much leveled off. I think we might have some more people join as we go, but we're going to get started. So, welcome everyone to our evening for educators. Thank you for being with us tonight. We're glad you're here. My name's Samantha Steffen. I'm the BTS Arts Program Coordinator at Weaver State University in the Arts Learning Collaborative. Before we begin, I have some housekeeping items. Tonight, we're focusing on building community through art. So we'll have opportunities to interact with each other and ask questions. However, we ask when we're not sharing. We keep our microphones muted to help us avoid extra background noise. We also encourage you to keep your camera on if you are comfortable doing so. I think most of us knows how it feels to be speaking to a gallery of black boxes. It can be pretty isolating, which is the opposite of our theme tonight. So we would love to see your faces, especially during the creating portions of the evening. We also have the chat feature available for your thoughts and questions, and I'll be monitoring the chat tonight during our workshop. Here's our schedule for tonight. As you can see, we will be making art in our creating time. So hopefully you gathered some supplies using the list in your reminders from Midas. I will post the supply list in the chat when I'm finished with my announcements for a reminder. And our presenters are pretty flexible with supplies tonight. And so if there's something specialty that you don't have, use what you have, do your best. We can do all of this on paper if you don't have transparencies, those kinds of things. So we hope you can create with us. There will be a couple of short breaks for you to stretch, grab materials, and do anything else that you might need a break to do. If you need technical assistance, you can send me a chat and I'll do my best to help you. We are so excited to have two wonderful presenters tonight. Alisa Petersen is the Beverley Taylor Sorenson Endowed Chair of Elementary Arts Education at Southern Utah University. She's the director of SUU Arts Fusion, where she gets to combine her passions for art, creative exploration, and the maker movement to coordinate, develop, and teach arts-based learning experiences for children, families, and teachers. Our second presenter tonight is Liz Brown. Liz is a BTS art coach at the Northeastern Utah Educational Service Center. This is her 20th year in education, and she has held many roles in the classroom. She's passionate about children having access to the arts. I will be sending you a Google folder with materials and resources, including the slides from both the in-person and virtual workshops tonight. You should see that folder from me by the end of next week. We have a couple of upcoming workshops later this year that I just want to highlight. On February 27th, we are hosting a workshop called Play It by Ear, which is going to explore arts integration through music and improvisation. Then, I lost my mouse for a second. Then on April 10th, we are teaming up with Southern Utah University to host the next webinar in our Explore and Express the Science Around Us webinar series, where we will explore a Utah habitat through science, dance, drama, music, and visual art. Finally, in the coming days, you should receive an email with a survey from Elena Free at Evening for Educators. You must complete this survey to receive your relicensure hours, so make sure you watch for that in the email account that you used to sign up for this workshop in Midas. And we love to see how you're implementing knowledge from our workshops in your classrooms. If you email me photos of you using the knowledge and ideas gained from this evening for educators by December 6th, we'll enter you to win a $50 Amazon gift card. So we'd love to see that. So that is enough for me. Let's get to the art. We have a video showcasing art around Ogden that we'd like to show you. This was created by our wonderful film studio on campus, as well as with the help of many partner arts organizations in Ogden. And so we hope that this gives you a little preview of what we're doing tonight and the unique art in our community.
My name is Lori Buckley, and I am the Arts Administrator for Ogden City. If I were to describe the Grant Avenue murals, I would have to say it's a large, impactful project. It encompasses 2 city blocks. The murals are 50 feet long by about 40 feet tall, so there's 5 wall panels, and we did a national artist call. We got about 154 submissions from local and national artists. Had to narrow that down to 1, which is very difficult, but Don Mix is the artist that we selected, and he was one of the outstanding submissions. His work is so vibrant and colorful. There's so much movement and lines, and I think the fact that he spoke Spanish, and 30% of our community here speaks Spanish, I think it was just like the perfect fit for that project. The first mural depicts a male Indian with a feather headdress. We kind of worked with the local tribes and made sure it was like a generalized example of multiple tribes, so we weren't leaving any of them out. And so just for a nod for the people that were here before Ogden. And then, it moves on through like local immigrants that like came with the railroad and industry workers. Of course, we have to talk about the railroad, so there's the panel that covers Golden Spike and where the railroads meet. And, Ogden's a railroad town. We're here because of that railroad. And then, we move into like more modern timelines. We've got a woman with a horse, and it kind of covers our Western culture, but then Ogden has one of the biggest rodeos in the western half of the United States that comes here every July. So it's a nod to that. And then we couldn't leave out Joe McQueen. He was so impactful to the development and, kind of working with segregation. He was really impactful in helping us, because Ogden's always been super diverse because of the railroad and because of kind of how we grew. And so he worked really hard and really put Ogden on the map in the music world. So he was a perfect end cap for that. The installation process for those murals was surprising and difficult. So he came in June of 2021, brought his wife Cassia and their 2 children, beautiful little family. And he said, I'm gonna paint these. And you remember, these are 50 feet long by 40 feet tall, and there's 5 of them in 4 weeks. And I was like, is he joking? Like this, I'm thinking 3 or 4 months maybe of time, because if you see his pieces, they're so detailed. There's so many little lines and patterns and shapes. And he worked for a week on his own, and then he had a fellow muralist that they worked together on larger projects fly in. His name is Pedro Torres. He goes by Spear. And he came in and they started working at night. So they got lights and they worked all night long. And in 4 weeks, those huge murals, just like I would come the next day and it would be like huge sections done. And it was like magic. So I incorporate the community into the public art process pretty much from the beginning all the way to the end. As I'm working through a new project, it is presented in public meetings. The community has the option to stand up and ask questions, or, maybe even try to veto it. Even through the approval process, it's in front of the community. Every single art opportunity I have, any art call, a request for qualification or proposal is open to the public. And then I do require my selected artists to work through their design process with the community. They're required to do community engagement sessions, workshops. We like to have like an art installation day where you're working with the artists, especially on murals, where they can come paint. We require them to offer artist talks or workshops, so I try to keep the community involved with us the whole way through.
Hello, I am Casey Lindley. I am the Program and Communications Manager at Ogden Contemporary Arts. Solar Healer Protector is a mural that was created by our Ogden Contemporary Arts 2023 Artist in Residence, Eric J. Garcia. He's an artist based in New Mexico, and he came out for a few months, created this large-scale mural on the Monarch building. It's about 100 feet wide and 60 feet tall, and it basically depicts a Utah landscape. It depicts the iconic Morton Salt girl, and she's been transformed into a young Shoshone girl, pouring seeds into the water beneath her. On one side of the mural, you'll see the Wasatch Mountains transforming into teepees that are traditional housing for the Shoshone Nation. And then on the other side, you'll see the Wasatch Mountains kind of transforming into these more industrial buildings. So the installation process with Solar Protector Healer is we first received a proposal from our artist in residence, Eric J. Garcia. He wanted to do a large-scale community-based mural that addressed some of our environmental and social issues, but also some of Ogden's history. Eric had a few open studio nights where we invited community members to come in and meet Eric. And he put up a few pieces of paper on his studio walls with some prompts, just asking a few questions and asking community members to tell him about Ogden, because he had never been to Ogden before, so he felt like that would be a really good way to learn about it. He also reached out to members of the Northwestern Band of the Shoshone Nation and asked them to tell him a little bit about this place and their history here. So they gave him a lot of really incredible feedback. He came up with the mural design, and then he did need some assistance because it's a very large-scale mural. So we reached out to our partner organization, Youth Impact of Ogden, and we invited the teens to come out and learn from Eric and help him paint the mural. And then he taught the teens the grid method, like a more traditional approach to mural making, where you have a large-scale drawing and you can scale it up through a grid. And then we also had a community mural day where we invited all the community members to come out and help paint the mural. So it was definitely a huge project where most everybody was able to be involved and help create this piece. So Solar Healer Protector reflects Ogden in various ways. It reflects the history of the building that it is painted on, which is the Monarch. It used to be the parking garage for the Bigelow Hotel. He selected a lot of colors that are really reflective of Ogden and Utah, northern Utah. And a lot of the conversations he was picking up on, a lot of people expressed concerns about the Great Salt Lake drying up and also water being diverted from the Bear River. He's also referencing the history of Air Force Base. So you'll see a lot of jets in the mural. He added a lot of different layers from like contemporary issues to our history and all of that. So I think one of the wonderful things about mural art is that it's a very community-based art practice. So you're taking artwork out of the white cube and putting it out into the public where everyone can see it and enjoy it.
The OGX bus line is actually a bus rapid transit system that it's a high-speed, quick running bus that runs from West Ogden up through Ogden, through Weber State Campus, and ends at McCady Hospital. And this project is a collaboration actually between a lot of different entities. It was a very large and expensive project. It's a partnership between Ogden City, the Utah Transit Authority, which I'll call UTA, Weber State University, McCady Hospital, and Weber County Ramp. There are 13 stations. There are 3 of them that I'd like to talk about today. It's on Jefferson Avenue, and the artist is a local photographer named Benjamin Zach, and his art piece is called Profiles of Jefferson. And what's interesting about that piece is Jefferson Avenue is one of the longest residential streets in Ogden City. And what he did is he just meandered up and down the road, and he ended up taking photographs of people in their everyday lives that live on Jefferson. So they're actually in the art piece, and then he colored the photographs, and it's a beautiful collection of the people of Jefferson Avenue. My second most favorite is it's on the intersection right at the top of 25th Street and Harrison. The artist's name is Monica Bravo. She used the Art Deco theme of Ogden High School. And then hidden in there is actually our mountain skyline and our cityscape skyline. So it's a beautiful piece, very colorful. And abstract art's one of those ones you can look at for a long time, looking for things. And so I think it's a very well done piece. And the third one that I really love is actually up here on campus. And the artist is Hillary Hagstrom Wallace. And it's a depiction of Weber State students. They are going about, there's a basketball player, a student walking to class. Interspersed throughout the piece, it's acorns and oak leaves. And so you kind of wonder why they're there. And if you read her artist statement, she has a beautiful analogy that relates Weber State as a little acorn. And it goes all the way back to when Weber State was just an academy. and it has grown into this mighty oak tree that has deep roots into the Ogden community, and those large, expansive branches do cover like the diversity of students that attend to school here, and then they also have roots in the community because once they're done at school here, they go out, impact Ogden. They're working and living and, interacting. So I think it's really a well done and well thought out piece. So it's very different than a normal public art installation where the artist comes and they're painting or they fabricated work in their studio and they bring it and install it in Ogden. This one, the artists were just required to create their design and then provide high resolution digital files. And UTA then contracted with a company called 3Form. They figured out a way, to print that artwork, and it had to be in certain level of transparency to meet the safety factors so that you could see through the glass enough. And then sandwiched it between the two glass screens so it's protected from the weather, and it has like UV protectant in there because we didn't want them to fade. Ultimately, once 3Form fabricated the pieces, then UTA contractors installed them. So it was a little bit different than a normal public art installation process. The way we tied it into Ogden or made it reflect Ogden is we assigned each artist a neighborhood, and the artists all work with your special collections department, Sarah Langston, up here.
When we were working with the artists, the one thing we talked to them about was wherever their designated station was, to try and reflect what that neighborhood looked like or looks like now. So you have some that show like the train station and things like that, but as you get further into the more residential areas like Monroe, there are photographs of people who live in that area today that are shown there. And so it really reflects the diversity that is Ogden. Ogden's always been a very diverse town and just continues to be. It pulls in people from all walks of life. It's so interesting to look at those photographs of people and see, they're not all the same. That there are people from all over that have called Ogden home and are continuing to call Ogden home.
I think the coolest piece of the OGX transit station is that it is such an amazing example of what a collaboration of community organizations can pull off. Because of the partnership, everyone pooled resources and worked together and helped look for artists. And the piece from your special collection, Sarah Langston, adding all those images that the artists need, it was a perfect example of what a community can pull off together. And it just is an amazing project that really added so much vibrancy and color and energy to our streets. So I think ultimately it's a fantastic example of what the community can do together.
I love that there are so many local artists that are getting to show their art in a very public way. That I just see things pop up, and sometimes they think they're sanctioned, sometimes they're not. But I think it adds to the history of Ogden. It tells the stories. I love that it tells not only the popular stories that we know, but sometimes it picks out people that may not be so well known in Ogden's history, and sort of be able to tell their story as well.
I think that community art is important because it's a really good way to connect with your community members, to have important conversations about local issues. It's free and accessible for the community to experience. And community art projects, they can be seen by larger audiences, and it gives the community the opportunity to participate in larger conversations.
Community art is so important for a lot of factors. I think ultimately it gives you pride in your community. It gives you feel connected and welcome there because it's telling the story of the people there. It's telling, it's depicting different cultures and different histories. And, whether it be murals or static sculpture art or anything, I think that there's like magic there. We've seen it throughout history, all the way back to the people living in caves. They were putting art in their walls, and then we can learn a lot about art, even if that's all we have from them, is we're learning about their society and their people from their artwork. And so community art is like one of the most important pieces of a healthy, strong, and vibrant community. And, I think we should definitely have more of it.
A picture tells 1,000 words, and I truly believe that you can gain so much from just visually looking at something.
All right, and with that to set the stage for our presenters tonight, I am happy to hand things over to Alisa Petersen for the first part of our workshop.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to quickly share my screen with you. And while I'm doing this, I would love to have each of you put in the chat. And I just realized when I'm sharing my screen, I can't see the chat. But put in the chat, I'd like to know if you are an elementary educator or middle school, junior high, or high school, and if you are a subject-specific educator like art or language arts or science. We have such a small group that I'm going to invite you to talk in just a little bit. And actually, I'd like to think about this question: what is public art? I love the video that we just watched. I've seen it twice now, and I feel like it's incredibly moving. And Ogden is not my community. I live in Cedar City, but just to see the way the community came together to create these works of art and then to share them now that they are part of that community, it's awesome. So what is public art? I'd love to, if any of you would like to kind of give a definition or of what you think it is or how you would describe it. I'm trying to figure out how to see all of you at the same time while I'm sharing my screen. I'd say there's such a small group. If you'd like to answer, just unmute yourself and tell me, what do you think is public art? Well, I'll go ahead and answer my own question then. I have a couple of definitions here, and I'd like to go over them. This first one is from an article at the Now Playing Utah website, and I love this. They just say, simply put, public art is art in public spaces. And Sarah Langston said sometimes public art is sanctioned and sometimes it's not. So sometimes it's been created, like the ones that we saw in the video with the community really engaged and participating, and other times it's actually maybe private art that looks public or that we see it in our public spaces. But what I love is the article goes on to say that these are gifts to the community. They're owned by all of Utah's residents and are available to be viewed and experienced free of charge. So when art is really truly public, we all own it, which I think is a cool thing to think about. So here's another definition. This is from the Utah Division of Arts and Museums. And what I like is this tells us that public art can be so many different kinds of things. So this says terrazzo floors, etched glass, ceiling panels, textiles, stair railings, risers, pavers, planters, landscape fences, and grates are just some of the possibilities for public art contributions to public spaces. So we saw a lot of murals just now, and we also think of sometimes of sculptures, but it could be a tiled floor or a cool ceiling, beautiful planters. There's so many different possibilities for public art and public spaces. They're as vast as the imaginations of the artists and architects who create them. And there is a really great website that's the Association for Public Art. And when we share this slideshow with you, I have links to each article and website on these pages. But this website says that public art is a part of our public history, part of our evolving culture and our collective memory. It reflects and reveals our society and adds meaning to our cities. As artists respond to our times, they reflect their inner vision to the outside world, and they create a chronicle of our public experience. I love that we saw this in all of these murals and the bus station works of art in the video. The artists and the community members really worked together to determine what would be the works of art to really represent the culture of Ogden and the history of Ogden and what is important to the society in Ogden. And I think that's what makes public art awesome and beautiful, and also maybe a little bit nervous to create, because when you're creating it or when you're selecting it for a community, you're saying this, whatever it is that's depicted here, is what matters to our community. This is another idea that goes right along with that. Public art is a reflection of how we see the world, the artist's response to our time and place, combined with our own sense of who we are. I think that along with these ideas, if we work with our students to look at works of public art and to analyze what they're seeing, we could ask them, how does this reflect this community? How does this reflect what's happening in our time or in the time that it was created? Okay, so I wonder how many of you know about this program. When I was asked to participate in this project, I thought, okay, I love the Walk the Block video that's really telling us about art in Ogden, but I don't live in Ogden. I live in southern Utah, quite far away, and we have public art here as well. And I am assuming that you are all from different areas of the country, or not the country, but the state of Utah. And so I wanted to think of artwork that we can connect with across the state. And so I wanted to share this with you. This is just a snapshot of the public art website as part of the Utah Division of Arts and Museums website. So this program was passed by the legislature in 1985, and it designates 1% of construction costs of all public buildings, like Utah buildings, up to $200,000 of new or renovated buildings that needs to go toward arts to be part of the building. And so that means university buildings that are owned by the state. We're having a new building built here, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. But part of the budget for the building goes toward art. And so what I love is that this website shows, I think all of them, there are 285 works of public art that are listed on this website, and you can dive in and learn about them. And so we are going to look at a few of those. When I was looking through this website, immediately I saw this one. And if you've spent any time in Cedar City at SUU, you'll recognize that this is the entrance to the SUU library. and you can see that there's this glass and with a railing, and then there's a little bit of a sandstone rock sticking up. If you go and look down, you'll see kind of a recessed work of art. And so the second picture here are students studying in the basement level, and there are windows here that look out onto that work of art. And then the final picture is a glimpse of what it looks like. There are these beautiful sandstone man-made hoodoos. And then along this back panel, there are all of these different panels that have language. And so I'll tell you, the panels there are 10. They have Egyptian hieroglyphics, Chinese characters, Native American petroglyphs, the Greek alphabet, Easter Island Cyriologics, I don't know what that is, Dead Sea Scrolls, and there are many more. And so there are all these representations of language. And I love that this is right at the entrance into the library, which is this building of knowledge. Let's see if I can go to the next slide. Okay, so this is at Utah Valley University, and this is called English 101, which I think is an awesome title. And these were created by James Avati, and it said that he created I think 4 figurative works of art in this really classical style of students that are learning and reading. And so we went from that last one, which was really a site, kind of an environment, to this, which is really traditional sculptures. And both are representations of public art here in the state of Utah. So this is actually in Ogden at Weber State University, and this is called Entangling and Disentangling. And the artist says that these forms or vessels represent listening devices, so gramophones, communication instruments like satellite dishes, and that are for gathering and transmitting information. And so it makes us think of music and communication and listening and speaking. And so I love that the last one was super traditional. This one gives us a hint. We see it and think, yep, that's music, that's communicating, that's hearing. And then this next piece, the images on the website are from kind of while this area was still in construction. But this is outside the George S. and Dolores Dory Eccles Wildlife Education Center in Farmington. And anybody have any guess what this is a picture of? It's called Eternal South, or what they're referencing in this work of art. Anybody want to unmute and take a guess? It's
Does
okay.
it point to the south?
I believe it does. I believe it points to the south. Yes, it points directly south.
I mean, it kind of reminds me of like geese and their flying pattern, like, or the flying pattern that birds take.
Yep, absolutely. So this is it. So it says the artists were fascinated by the enigma of the Great Salt Lake, and they wanted to make a symbolic tribute to the eternal southern migration of birds. And so they said the three rising forms represent avian wishbones, which are critical for flight. So they're representing birds, the wishbones of birds, which help them fly. They rise above the marsh like a flock of birds taking flight for their arduous journey. The piece points directly south, directing the visitor's eye toward the horizon that is just the first of many mileposts on the long flight south. And so I like that this is so much more abstract, but it really is representing the purpose of the place, the Wildlife Education Center, and the artist really thought about how are we going to communicate in our way something that matters to this location and to the broader environment here. Okay, so the next piece. Oh, has anybody seen this? I have not seen it in real life, but this is in the Engineering and Applied Science and Technology building at Weber State University, and it's called Between the Currents. And I don't have a video of this, but what's so cool is that each of these little fans is connected to a motor, and it cycles through animations showing the underlying mathematics of wave forces in nature. So we have from super traditional bronze sculptures of students reading books all the way to this kind of thing that's up by the ceiling. That's these fans that open and close with motorized motors, I guess is the word. All of these different things can be considered public art. And I love that they really go with the intent and the purpose of the spaces. Okay, so in this piece, has anyone seen this one? It's called Enduring Spirit, and this is outside of the Division of Services for the Blind and Visually Impaired. And if you'll look, this has very sleek and smooth surfaces along the top, and then the edges are quite rough, and it's curving along a sidewalk, a pathway that leads in toward the building. And in this one, I wanted to talk to you about the call for this, just like we heard in the video about the artwork in Ogden. Do I see a hand up? Rochelle? Nope. Okay. So when we saw in that video, they said they put a national call out for artists, and they had to narrow it down to one. When it's public art like this in the Utah State public buildings, the architects and people in the organization will create a request for proposals. So they're asking artists to propose what they would create for the space. And that request is very specific for the purpose and the needs of the building. And so in this one, it said the selection committee envisions placing artwork in the new building that can be enjoyed by all constituents that use and work in the building, sighted, partially sighted, and blind. They wanted it to be tactile and durable in quality, as well as being aesthetically pure. And so they have this very abstract piece that can be touched, and people that can see it or feel it, and they'll get different ways of experiencing it, which I really love. And so now I wanted to tell you about this one. This is a new building that is being constructed right now at SUU, and it's a new music education building. And as I was doing research for this project, I stumbled into the request for proposals for artwork for this building. And so they have the architect's rendering of the space. They're asking you can read here that they want site-specific artwork that will be in this building. They'll be receptive to recommendations for location of the art. So sometimes they say, we want the art in this particular spot. Or other times they say, we'd like the artist to look at these designs and tell us where they would like to put the works of art. In that request for proposals, they're also, they talk about the community. So it says the art selection committee will be looking for Utah artists. So they narrow it down. We want someone here who is able to augment the experience within the building by creating a work that enhances the carefully designed architectural elements rather than competing with them. I love that idea. And then they say the committee expects to find an artist who will bring creative, innovative, and original installation to the project and who communicates with the surrounding space, allowing viewers to immediately recognize the relationship between the art installation and the facility's purpose. So the facility is a music building, so they want something that will feel like music. And these two pictures, as well as these, are all from that call for proposals to artists so that they can show this is our surroundings, this is the purpose, this is what the building looks like. And then they sit back and wait and see what artists propose, which I think is really, really exciting. So that's what we're going to do. We are going to create an RFP, a request for proposal. And so I was an elementary art teacher here in Cedar City for several years. And what I found is that when I created an assignment that asks the students to fulfill a specific need, their work was more interesting, more creative, and they were more excited to do it. And now I know that this is a way of doing project-based learning, but I love to create a challenge for students. And so creating an RFP, a request for proposal, is a really great way to do that. So as you do it, you'll name the place where the art will be, describe the purpose of the place, so what happens in this place. You can describe the community and the physical site for the art, and explain the requirements and the requests. And when you design this is a way that you can promote deep thinking for your students about the core standards that you're wanting to teach. So I have given you in the documents that we emailed to you about that you can print a document that looks like this: request for proposal for public art. And so if you have that, I'd love to have you pull it out, because I'm going to ask you to create your own request for proposal, and I'm going to create one alongside you. And so when I was deciding where we might design a little work of public art for, I thought, should I pick one location and we all do the same one? And I decided, no, I would really like you to choose a location. It could be out on the playground of your school, or inside the school in the entryway, or outside the school in the entryway. Or it may not be in the school where you teach. Maybe it is a community park or a neighborhood, or maybe an island in the middle of a street. So think of a location that you think would be great for a work of art, public art. And that's what you'll write in here. And then you can think of what standard you would like to see students learning about as they create their public art. So when I did this is the standard that I selected. It's third grade, standard 3.3.1. Students will analyze how their community has been shaped by the diverse people who have resided within it. Compare primary and secondary sources when available from or about these people. And so that's what I want students to be exploring through this art project. So I'm going to show you how I put this together, and then I'm going to give you a little time to think about your place and what standard you might have students create art about. So here's that first part of that worksheet. For me, my request for proposals is public art for North Elementary School. That's where I'd like the art to go. That's a school here in Cedar City. And the purpose is to showcase the ways that the community of Cedar City has been shaped by the diverse people who have lived here. That's the purpose that I would like the art to meet. And so you can see that I've reworked the standard. This is kind of an objective. I want students to create a work of art that showcases the ways that the community of Cedar City has been shaped by the diverse people who have lived here. That's what I'd really like them to do in their artwork. So that's really directly based on that standard. And then the next part says community and site. So I went on the website for Cedar City and kind of copied and pasted information that I thought could be useful for someone who's wanting to learn about this community. And for the site, I put in a picture of the school, and I'm imagining the art would be right here, kind of just next to these stairs. This work will be installed on the sidewalk near the stairs in front of the building. The building is composed of squares and rectangle shapes. Okay. So the next thing is that on this request for proposals are requirements and requests. And this is what I saw consistently in the request for proposals in the works of public art that I looked at. Requirements means this is what we absolutely want to see, and requests, this is negotiable, but this is what we hope we'll see. So for me, requirements is a perfect place to expand what you're asking students for based on your standard. So I said I want them to include positive contributions made by at least 4 different historic figures or population groups in Cedar City. So my big idea at the beginning was kind of broad, and in this I got more specific. I want to see 4 contributions made by different people or groups of people in our town, and I want it to be a freestanding work of public art, so a sculpture or something that doesn't need to hang on the wall or from the ceiling. For my requests, we hope the artist will use elements from the architecture of the school within the artwork, and we would like to see ways that children can interact with the work of art. To me, this is like your way to add some fun into the requests that you're creating for students. The requirements is sort of a lot based on the standards, and then the requests is anything else you want to add to kind of spice up what you're asking students to do. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now. And that was a lot of talking, but what I'd like to do first is in a minute, we're going to have a little work time where I want you to sort of create your request for proposals. But first, what ideas do you have for standards that you might incorporate into a project like this, where you're asking students to think up a work of art that would go in a public space?
We're currently working on a standard that is compare and contrast ways that technology has changed how art has been presented in the past and right now. So that's the one we've been working on. My kids just learned about the Lesso cave paintings, and they did the big like tour of the Lesso caves. So they could do one that was a compare and contrast, like, I don't know, technology, and I don't know, that would be a good one, I think.
Yeah, that makes me think of some of the murals that we saw in the Walk the Block video where they showed the mountains and the outside nature moving toward the more industrial parts of the city of Ogden. So that's great. Any ideas about maybe science or language arts, ways that you may tie that into a proposal like this for students?
So I previously taught kindergarten. I now do like pre-service teachers, but I feel like a lot of like ordinal stuff, like putting stuff in order, which is like part of storytelling. So like the first, then last, or to like provide either your plan for execution of the project or overview of like the history that you're highlighting within the piece.
So do you mean that students will be, as they go through this process, that they will be going through first then last, or that they would represent that some way in their work of art?
I think they could do it both ways. I was imagining it mostly like in an artist statement format of like them
Oh, yeah.
explaining, like practicing using those words, but I think it could also be done like an artist statements obviously don't have to be written. It could be like verbally
Yeah.
conveyed, but I also think it could be a way to like also represent visually their art, that it could be like 3 or 4 components that they have to do first then last.
Yes, absolutely. And I can imagine students creating like maybe they were doing first then last about a story that they've read, so they could create a work of art that is some type of a timeline. That could be a really cool work of art as well. So it could
Yeah.
be the reflection or artist statement at the end of their project, or their plan at the beginning, or actually the work that they create. That's cool.
Yeah.
Any other ideas? Okay, so this is the part of an online class that's a little bit awkward. We're going to be quiet for a minute because I'd love to have you dive into your ideas and think about what you would create for students. This request for proposal, it's basically an art prompt for them. What standard you might put in, what location you would ask them to create for, and any other considerations. What we're going to do later in our work period is you'll either create this work of art or something that we learned from Liz, or you can work on a little bit of both. So right now, I'd love you to put some ideas into planning, and then I'll share with you what I planned. Okay. Let's say 4 minutes. We're just going to do about 1 more minute. You can keep working on this, but I'll keep moving forward to show you a few more ideas in about a minute. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen again. And here we go. Oh, I've gotta fix something real quick. There we go. Okay. So we aren't going to get out and breakout groups just yet, but I want to show you the next step that you would do after you give your RFP to students, your request for proposals. I have just a really basic worksheet here that students can use to design or brainstorm their ideas for their work of public art. And we're going to go through this together. So I filled this out based on the proposal or the RFP that I just showed you. So for me, this was so interesting. Remember, mine was about my request said that the students would need to tell in their work of art, show or communicate ideas about 4 people or groups of people in our town. So I researched these 4 different people and groups and big ideas that they brought or contributed to our community. It's Eleanor Tom, a Paiute storyteller, the Sheep Farmers Association, Helen Foster Snow, who is a woman who went to China a lot and helped people there, and then Fred Adams, who started the Shakespeare group. And as I did this, I had to research these people, and I realized that all of them in their own way are about bringing people together through story, through theater, through collaboration and co-ops of working together. So that was really interesting. So it made me say, okay, how might I show this? So this box says components. Are there any objects or images? Do you want it to be really literal or abstract? We saw examples of those in the public art we looked at. So I thought moon, sheep, a spinning wheel, and these flags from this Shakespeare festival, flags or ribbons flying in a breeze. And then what elements of design? So colors or shapes or textures. And I thought all of these things have textures. Maybe I would include spinning wheels or lines. And as I did this, I started thinking more and more of, oh, winding together, loose parts that are winding or twining or coming together might represent my ideas. And I liked colors and maybe natural colors for these people that I was learning about. And then structure. Does it need to be on the ground or hanging up? Should it include movement? I wrote on the ground. Could people go under it or through it? Is there benches? Maybe I'll have some wool or yarn. And then physical considerations. I thought maybe it would be large enough to walk under, since it's on the sidewalk, that having people walk through it or under it could be pretty interesting. And then the last box says words. Do you want any words? And I thought, oh, I would love to find quotes or sentences from each of these people or groups that talk about that idea of collaboration and working together. And so I'm going to stop my share and show you some of what I created. So let's see. I have a lot of screens. We're going to share this one. The next page for the student work is once you've gone through all of that, then you create sketches. So these are 4 different sketches that I did really loosely based on those ideas. And then a little bit hard to see here, so I'm going to stop my share again and show you here. This is one piece that I created. It's just made out of cardboard and paper and markers, but this would represent each of those 4 people or groups. And then people can walk underneath it. And I would love to have on the inside panels where people could read about those groups and their contributions. And on the outside, it would be textures and patterns that represent each group, as well as these black lines represent words from those people. And so this would be a large thing where these are all separate, but they're coming together to represent this idea of community. Here's another piece I created. This doesn't represent this idea. It represents another one, but again, it's cardboard. I use cardboard to construct this, and I have tissue paper here. And so what we'll do during the work session is finish up our RFPs, and then work through the brainstorming sheet, and then do a little bit of cardboard construction. I have my document camera to show you what I'm creating. And if you work with me, then you can create and show us along the way. But before we do that, I want to take you to one more place. I love using cardboard with children. And so, oh, just a second. Sometimes I find that when kids, there we go. When you're working with a large group of students and they're all doing their own thing, they're all working independently, they're going to need different instruction at different times, rather than me sitting down and saying, here are all of the possible ways that you can build with cardboard. I love to have a resource available that they can take a look at. And so I've created just some little videos. So this is just my own personal website. And I'll share the link in the chat. But if we scroll down, there's a thing right here called Cardboard Skills. And if you go there, I have videos all about different things that you can do with cardboard. And these are some lists of tools that I like. So I'm just going to show you one. These don't have any sounds, but they show, and they're a little bit blurry. They're meant to be seen a little smaller than this, but they show step by step how to do some really simple things to create their shapes. So if I did this with students, we would create the sketches that I showed you before, have students choose one, and then consider what they might need to know in order to build that. And then they can look at these videos as they need to learn the skills that they might need for the building that they might do. And I wanted to say, even if you work with really young children, this little blue glue gun that I'm using in this video is cool temperature glue gun. And I've used these with preschoolers where the kids use the glue on their own. It's hot, but it doesn't burn you. It says cool temp. It's still warm, but I haven't had anybody ever get hurt with that. And so with older students, I love using a hot glue gun. But if you use cool temp ones with children, then they can have at it and go for it. Okay, we still have a few more minutes, so I'd love to do some breakout rooms where you discuss your ideas with maybe one other partner or two other people. Even if you haven't really fleshed out your RFP all the way, I'd love to have you start talking about what you're thinking that you could ask students to create in their public art proposals. And so I think, Samantha, are we going to be sucked away into our breakout rooms? I think we'll just maybe do 5 minutes.
Sure, I can open them whenever you're ready.
Okay, so when you go there, what I want you to do is share your ideas, share the standards that you're thinking about, talk about the site that you're considering, and ask each other questions. If you're not quite sure all the way, share what you have and ask your group if they can provide some advice to flesh that out into a really great RFP. Okay, let's do it. So I heard just a little bit from a couple of groups, and I was really excited to hear the ideas that you have and the way that this would really directly connect with your own communities. There's so much in science and in language arts and in social studies that really help us understand and connect with and tell the story of what's happening in our own communities. So we're going to take a break for, I think, 5 minutes where you can continue working on your plan or even move into that second worksheet where the students create their proposal. You'll create one as though you were a student. And when we come back, Liz Brown is going to lead us in a completely different project about public art, which I'm really excited about. And then we'll have another break and then have a work period after that. So let's go ahead and take a break and come back at 6:15 on the dot for Liz's presentation.
I will put that supply list in the chat one more time as well if there's anything you need to collect. So see you soon.
Thank you.
It's 6:15. So Sam, I didn't know if you were gonna like start it or me, so I'll
We
just
didn't
start.
talk about it. I was thinking about it too, that are you waiting for me? But yeah, go
I was
ahead. It
like,
is
that's okay.
6:15.
I'm like, okay. You guys, I'm really excited to talk about the artwork. I'm gonna go a little bit deeper dive on the bus artwork that we saw in the video. And these are a couple quotes that Alisa shared with us about public art being a reflection of how we see the world. And it's like gives us our own sense of who we are. It's a part of the public history, part of our evolving culture and our collective memories. And I just kind of really love how these quotes kind of speak to the history and who we are and that like that story. And that's why that's kind of what we're going for, I guess. So we're going to look a little bit more deeply at the artwork that is part of the UTA transit stations. And this is I took a screenshot of their website, but I want to take this text that's here and kind of like look at it a little bit more deeply. Because I pulled out some specific words. Um, especially the part that is based on the people and history of Ogden City. And the artwork tells the story of our city with the intention to enhance, inspire, and bring together bus riders, local neighborhoods, visitors of Ogden City, and the community as a whole. And I just really, really loved that idea. Sorry, Sam, did you have a question?
I just wanted to say we see your presenter mode right now. Is there a way that you
Oh,
can share this with a full
yeah,
screen so we
that's
can see it
weird
a
that
little
it's doing
easier?
the wrong side. Okay, I
It
was
didn't
wondering.
when we tried it, when we tested it, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's really weird. Okay, I'm gonna try this way. Sorry. Thank you for
Right,
telling
just
me
one.
that.
Yeah,
So that's weird. We'll try this way. Is that it did the same thing?
it did the same thing.
Oh my goodness, that's so weird. Okay, I'm just gonna
It looked like there was a thing up at the top that said swap display when you had it up that time though. So try doing
okay.
it one more time and then maybe see how it says swap displays. I don't know
Is
if,
that better?
Yep, there it
yeah.
Okay.
is.
All right, that's
Great.
better. Okay.
Thank you.
I'm like, that's so weird. I was wondering if it was doing that, so I'm glad you told me. Um, so we're gonna come back to this quote at the end. So I want you to kind of think about this is the goal of the partners that went into the bus transit when they were doing their call, their RFP, and their call for artists. This was their goal. And so we're gonna kind of look at some of these. Um, we are going to do, I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with a Project Zero thinking strategy. I'm going to pull out just the images of all of the bus stops. The video highlighted 3. And because we're going to look at kind of all of them fairly quickly, and then we'll look at them more deeply. If you want to jot down any notes of things that you see or things that you think about or things that this artwork makes you wonder, maybe what you think about if you are a part of the community or if you're not part of that community. How would you feel if it was part of that community? Um, I'm just going to kind of go through a whole bunch of just pictures of all the different bus stops, and you can kind of jot down things, and then we'll talk about what we see and think and wonder as we go through. So I'm going to set kind of like a little stopwatch so I don't go too fast or too slow because I can do that. And I want to give us about probably 20 seconds on each image. But if I'm going too fast or let me know. Okay, maybe I'll make it 10 because this feels long. Is 10 okay? And you may notice some of them, there's two, that Monroe, there's the east side of the street, the west side of the street, or north and south. Okay, I know that 10 seconds per image is not a ton of time, but hopefully something in one of them, you notice some things that you could have taken a couple little jotted notes down. And if I'm not gonna call on hands, if you just want to like unmute, and what are some things that you saw?
I saw lots of color.
Mm,
Basic, sorry.
that's
Colorful
important.
nature.
I'm sorry, who said that?
I'm Jessica. Colorful nature. I was thinking all the colors, but just so many mountains and sun rays and just lots of beautiful nature.
I love that.
So
I
a
saw
lot.
so many plants, like different plants.
I love the people.
I saw a lot of different styles of like representing whether it was the plants or the people, that the different people were represented in different ways, or the different plants and nature scenes.
Of course, there's also a few like abstract scenes in there too. Well, and I didn't get to see it long enough to make it not abstract.
Okay, any last comments before we move on? Okay. What did you think? What would you think if you were a member of the community? What would you think not being a member of the community?
I was thinking that there were a lot of buildings that were probably familiar to the people who live there and unfamiliar to me, but it did make me curious, like what places were represented.
It made me think that like they are in a lot of the images representative of the community. There was like a unifying theme in a lot of the images, and it made me want to know more.
I thought, wouldn't it be fun to sit at those stop signs and sit and enjoy them?
I'll say driving around Ogden, being, working here and doing things here, then you really now there were some that I always noticed, but since we started working on this project, we started working on the video early in the summer, and so it's really been interesting. I'm noticing them more than the ones I always drive by and the ones I have to look at further because they're a little bit off the road or something, and they're really cool to see, and I always think that they are so representative, and we have a comment in the chat too that a well-rounded representation, um, and just like people have said, different styles, but really reflecting the community and the locations that they are. I love the ones that we have here on campus.
I love that you said that. I grew up very connected to Ogden, but I haven't lived there in 20 years. My mom grew up in Ogden, went to Ben Lomond High School. I'm very connected to that. I went to Weber State in the 90s, so long ago. And it makes me, I'm like, I've got to go back to Ogden and see all these in person because I actually did drive up and see some friends, mostly to see the artwork that we've been talking about. I'm like, I made my friends just go drive around and look at bus stops. It was too dark to take better pictures than they had on the website. So, okay, what does it make you wonder?
Mimi, I immediately, when we watched the video and when we watched your pictures, I think about those photographs of the community members, and I thought, how do those people feel when they see their faces? Or how do people who know them feel? And what if they don't like them? Or what if they love them? Or, and the fact that they're real people alive now really makes me wonder about their stories.
Absolutely.
I wonder the same thing. And we have there's in the chat, there's a comment that in the first image, what was the chain? So I don't quite remember which bus stop was was the first one that you
It was like the
showed.
train.
Was it was it the train station? The one at
This one?
Oh, yeah, okay, so there's chain in there.
Well, this one is, oh, yeah, I see it up here. This one is, well, I'm not going to say anything because next we're going to do something else. So you'll get to know more. I'm not going to answer any wonderings yet. Okay, sorry. Okay, see, wonder, any other wonderings?
I wonder how many of the artists that designed them were from Utah or like regionally, or how many were like from further away.
One more comment. Any other wonderings?
And this might be off, but I was thinking, like, I'm down in Delta, Utah, and we just don't have, things like this. And I'm like, how can we get more of this type of art around our little town? It's just so neat to have just common places that people pass and see. And how neat would it be to have things like this that we represent our town and stuff like that. So
yeah, I've wondered that same thing. Like, and that's one of the questions that I asked is like, how would that make you feel if this was your community? Like, I would be so proud to be a member of that community, that is a priority to the town and the community. So we're actually going to take a few moments. And I put the link in the chat to this website, and I'm gonna stop share. Well, no, I'm not gonna stop sharing. I'm gonna just end my show for just a second, because if you go to the website, it looks like this. Can you guys see the website? And if you scroll down, each of the bus stops, each of the artworks has a vision statement by the artist and some information about the artist. And you can scroll through and find out some more about one of the artworks that really kind of spoke to you. And yeah, so then when we come back, I'm just going to let you know what we're going to do when you come back. When you come back, we're going to go into breakout rooms, and you're going to get a chance to talk about one or two of the artworks that really spoke to you, and talk about the artist statements, the vision statement. What was it that really kind of had it call to you? But take a few minutes, and I'm going to give us 5 minutes. Yeah, 5, maybe 6 minutes to look at the website.
Liz,
Yes.
would you maybe want to go back to one slide to the one with the QR code in case
Oh, yeah, yeah,
anyone's
yeah. Thank
accessing
you.
with their phones? Yeah.
Yes, I meant to do that. And just so you know, when Indiana Jones plays, that's when the time's up.
Perfect.
Do you guys need one more minute? Or like 30 seconds? Finish where you're at and then oops. What is happening? Okay. So I'm gonna have Sam send us into breakout rooms for about probably 6 minutes, and then we'll while you're there, you're gonna kind of share which ones were really stood out to you, that were significant or impactful. Still waiting for a few more people.
We should all be back now.
Would anyone be willing to share with the whole group what one that stood out to them? Because I got to pop in and hear a whole bunch of really amazing conversations. And so I want you guys to hear some that you did not get a chance to hear.
I'll share. I focused in on one. It was the man from Florida, Jonathan Arango. And what I liked about it is that he's not a local, and he went through the right channels to really, he did the one of the Shoshone woman. And he really like did his research and met with a young woman to actually, it's actually of her. But just to like get his research and kind of go through everything with her to make sure he was doing the right representation that would be respectful. And then I just liked his style. It was very geometric with like warm and cools, and it was nice.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to share? We probably have time for one more if somebody's like, this one stood out to me.
I thought it was funny that the first one, I really liked the first one, and it was exactly the same thing as my proposal was
Oh,
about the
really?
railroad and how the railroad brought in diverse populations. I don't know. I thought that was funny. He did
Oh,
an
that's
amazing. Yeah.
awesome. I'm going to share with you guys one that stood out to me that kind of sparked my interest, and that was this one. And it looks very abstract. Did anyone read about this one? I mean, Sam did. She can nod because she knows. But I will tell you what really stood out to me is that I thought it was just this beautiful, abstract, colorful artwork. But when you read about it, it's actually a whole bunch of different maps overlapping each other, of where different routes of immigrants and bodies of water and topographical lines and mountain ranges. And so all of this like abstract pieces like actually have maps as this like starting point, which I was like, oh my goodness, totally shift my mind in the way I'm looking at it. And I can see different things in that. So that was one that really stood out to me that kind of impacted the project of kind of like the where I wanted to go with tonight's project. So I'm going to go back to this quote that I read at the beginning. And I'm going to ask you, like, do you agree or, about if they met their goal? The artwork tells a story of our city with the intention to enhance, inspire, and bring together bus riders, local neighborhoods, visitors of Ogden City, and the community as a whole. I mean, I think that's pretty kind of like, yes, they accomplished that. So the task that I'm just throwing out there is for you to create an artwork that tells your story with the intention to enhance, inspire, and bring people together, either from your family or friends or your neighborhood or your community as a whole. And it could be a more public artwork or it could be a private artwork, because art will enhance whatever space it's put in, right? Like whether it's a public, whether it's home, whether it's a school, library, wherever art is put, it's going to enhance that space. So there was a paper for you to print off, but you don't really need to print it off if you don't have it. You can just take a piece of paper and draw lines, you know, scratch paper. This is a brainstorming sheet to do some brainstorming about your story, about the past, about present, about future, just brainstorming different things that are represent your past and things that represent your present or your future. You may or may not use multiples of these. You may use pieces of one or the other. I'm going to show you some, I'm going to give us probably like 3 minutes to start brainstorming. Maybe I'll do 4 minutes to start brainstorming. Is that too long? Do you think 3? Well, I'll do 3. And if we need another minute, I'll add it. Is that good? Okay. Indiana Jones is going to be up on deck when it goes off. That's kind of our time. Just kind of start brainstorming just things that you could include. Do we need 1 more minute? We're going to have more time when we do go into our creative time. This was just kind of start thinking about it. So I'm going to switch. Can you see my hand? Okay. Let me move this over. I want to show you a couple different examples of what we're going to do, because in this project, we're going to kind of be playing with positive and negative space in a different way than maybe other elementary opportunities would provide. But and in the supplies, it talked about glass or transparencies. This is one that I did. This is just a frame from the dollar store, but I did an artwork on the front, and then I did a second piece of glass. And I actually, because I loved the idea of the maps, I love going hiking and biking in arches and in some of the national parks down in southern Utah and central Utah. These are a bunch of biking, hiking, and river, like the river trails, because I love to canoe. And so you can see the trails through some of that negative space. And as you kind of play with this a little bit, one of the things that you have to really think about is, where is the negative space going to fit together? So because this was specifically about Ogden, and I thought about my history with Ogden. So my experience a lot with Ogden is my grandfather was a cattle rancher in Ogden, and in Huntsville and Ogden. And I kind of thought about the rodeos and all the cattle things that we did. But my present with Ogden, not really present now, but more present than my grandfather's cattle ranch, is I went to Weber State. And so I printed off and traced some of the maps. And when you overlay them, you kind of have some of this background. And I did this on purpose. Well, maybe it didn't. You'll just never know. I think it would probably look better if it was more scooted over there. But it was more centered. So when you start to think about it, if you do have the opportunity to have 2 pieces or multiple pieces, multiple layers, think about where your blank spaces are and what is going to go in those spaces. Now, if you don't have multiple layers, that's fine. If you just have, and you don't have anything transparent, you can still do the project on regular paper, thinking about different pieces of layers of your history, right? The past and the present. This one has different significance. I'll get to that in a second. So I do want to point out, so I'm from Oregon, so I did Multnomah Falls and Arches. And I do want to point out a couple things, and I hope you can kind of see the difference between some of the materials. You may not have paint pens. I am now all in on paint pens. I really love them. This is just Sharpies, and you can kind of see that there's more transparent quality to it versus paint. I gotta hold it still. The paint markers are less transparent because the paint is a little darker, and I can show you, it just is more opaque. Here's a different arches because I was doing a delicate arch. I have a lot of memories of hiking. I was doing these two together, but anyway, that ship sailed. So you can kind of see the way the color shows up differently on the paint markers versus the Sharpie. And if I was doing it with elementary kids, I'd use what I have. So, but in my breakout session, I'm going to show you a really, really quick way that I've done with second graders to put something in a little frame like this. It would take, I mean, the younger takes a little bit more time, but fairly easily to make. Well, I made one for this whale. There's a reason, there's significance for me for the whale at the moment, but just a quick way to put a little frame on it. Okay. And this one, I wanted to try out just a piece of no, not transparency, lamination. So this is a lamination sheet. I just sent through my laminator just to kind of see how that would work. But if you don't have anything transparent, that's fine. You can still work within your sphere. One of the things I like about this too is using the transparency is if they get a really detailed drawing, they can kind of perfect that drawing and trace over it. Also with the maps. Oh, here's Ogden's map. So I can just print out the map and trace some of those lines. So it's a little, this is one of Arches National Park that I kind of trace some of those different trails. So, that is, let's see. I'm going to close that and go back to that. So when we go into the different breakout rooms, you're going to get to choose. Let me switch slides. Oh, this is not the same PowerPoint that had the other new slide. Let's see. Sam, what was I supposed to tell people? They have to find a space that they can take their cameras off, right?
Yeah, let me pull
I'm
that
like,
up because I have it. I just have to find
but
it as well.
Google Slides was not working quite as well, so I just switched to that one.
It yeah. Sorry. I have all my Zoom
Okay.
windows open too, and it's like right
Well, I
here.
have it written down. So
Okay,
you wanna find a
I do
space-
have it.
Oh, read away, Sam. I'll stop sharing.
So we're gonna take a 10-minute break. You've been on Zoom for a long time with us already. We've got an hour left. This is a marathon Zoom session. So we're gonna take a 10-minute break, a little bit longer. I'll put those supply lists back in the chat again one more time if you want to gather some things. So when we come back, we're gonna have two breakout rooms, one for Alisa's project and one for Liz's project. And so you can, if you want to do a little bit of both, you can go in between. You'll be able to choose which breakout room you want to go into and then jump into the other one when you want to. So think about during your break, think about which project that you want to work on or which one you want to start with. Gather your materials. If, like Liz said, if you don't have glass or transparency, that's fine. If you need to print or draw a copy of a planning sheet, this would be a good time to do that. And then this is a time when we're creating, where it's just really nice to create together. We recommend that you are in a good space with a table or a hard surface that you can work at so you can work comfortably. A place where you would feel comfortable sharing your camera. This can be a really interactive time, which is what we're hoping for. So if you need to move to a different space, this would be a good time to do that. So we will come back right at 7:10 to start making some art together and applying all of these great ideas that we've heard and seen into our own artwork. So we'll see you in 10 minutes. So it looks like we're starting to make our way back, which is great for our last portion of our evening. So, Liz or Alisa, is there anything else that you want to say before I open up breakout rooms, or are you just ready to go?
No, I just want to like reiterate, it's not just necessarily a work time, but also like a time to talk and discuss and to be interactive and yeah.
Yeah,
as close to in
absolutely.
person as we can get.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm gonna be,
a little working group.
yeah, I'll be showing myself making a project, and I'm hoping that you will also make a project at the same time and that we can all talk as we work.
Yeah.
That sounds great. Well, I will open up 2 breakout rooms. They are named for Elisa's project and Liz's project. So you can decide which you can join one of them, decide which one you want to start with. Again, be you can start in one and then switch to the other at some point if you want to do both, or if you want to just stick with one and really focus on that project, then that is just fine. So I think they're open. I'm not really sure how this looks on your end though, being able to choose them. So
You just have to go to the very bottom and it says join.
did something pop up for you?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, it didn't for me.
Great. It's a little weird when it's like a host view versus a participant view. So I see people seeing to join, so that's great.
In my
Yay.
more, there's the 3 dots where it says more, and then it says breakout rooms, and then it gives you the 2 options to join. So if you don't see
Perfect.
it pop up.
That sounds great. All right, I think we are all back. That was half an hour, but that really felt fast to me. That went quick, a lot faster than I expected.
That was fast.
So, Alisa and Liz, how do you want to do a little debrief, have people report or show what they've started working on?
We kind of started to do that. I don't know if everybody got to share in our room just like in the last 2 minutes. So Alisa, do you want to go first? I don't know if you guys got a chance to share it all.
It was hard for me to see. So if you were in my group and you created something, I would love to see it. If you could hold up to your screen and then tell us what you were thinking of, what direction you're going, and it's specifically also what age you teach, so that can help us visualize kind of the direction. So I had, well, you know, if you were in my group, who would like to share?
I'll share, but I didn't get very far because you don't realize how long it takes to work in 3D, right? It's been a while since I've done it. So I was kind of thinking, we're doing a lot of like self-regulation with my first graders and stuff. And so my thought was, could you create your happy place, right? Some place that somebody would feel calm in, right? And so I just started with this little structure. I don't even know if it'll come through, but just kind of interesting shapes. And I thought I would fill it, like some of my favorite happy things are flowers. So I thought I would fill it with some flowers, just kind of a garden piece or whatever. But yeah, it takes a while. So I got a piece, a beginning of a structure.
I love that because I feel like when just students can visualize something that is a peaceful place, even if it's imaginary, then they can regulate. So that's such a cool idea to do that as an art project. Anyone else from my group, did you create something you wanted to share? Tell us about. I don't know if we had a ton of making in my group. I'll show what I was working on. This is kind of like a little bench, a covered bench for kids to sit at. And I have my, up on the top, those lines represent the big ideas, and I was going to copy them there as well, and down on the inside. So this is like a kind of inspired by those bus stops, but it's the pickup spot outside of an elementary school. It would have these visual, like colored lines that represent groups in the community. I think that's it for my group, Liz.
You had lots of great conversation in your group as well. I enjoyed it.
So in our group as well, we were doing a lot of brainstorming about other ways we could use kind of the layered effect and how it could benefit our classrooms, and different ways we could use it for different kinds of lessons. So would anyone like to share what they kind of came up with and were working on? I know we kind of shared it in our group, but share with the larger group. I'll call on people because I know. Katie, I'm just gonna ask you since would you share what you were doing?
Since I did mine went the whole with the past, present, and future thing, like beginning, middle, end. So I started transparency. So I started out with the seed, and then we were going to a little sparky plant, and then I'm going to start the forest that goes behind it. Can you guys see that?
So cool.
So it's all about layers and things like that. So that was mine.
And that also made me think about life cycles and how you could really easily kind of have a different range of life cycles.
Yeah.
Somebody else did like animals in their habitats. I can't remember. Was that you, Jessica? Oh, you're muted.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Would you feel comfortable? I don't want to put you on the
I
spot.
don't mind.
I'll
They're
put
not
Katie on the spot.
I didn't have the
Not
right
worried about that.
markers. I thought I had some, they're really thick and they weren't working well and my Sharpie was dying, but I made like a desert kind of habitat. And then I was making animals like that kind of went, in the desert to put over it. I think my students would really enjoy something like that. So I need a lot of work, but it was a good start.
So what you mean about not the right markers? That looks so cool.
Well,
Awesome.
like half of them were dry. They're like my kids. I thought, oh, I have acrylic markers, and like, cause I'm not an art teacher, like I just love art, and so I'm like, oh, I have some at home, and I didn't really test them out beforehand. And I was like trying to get half of them to work, and so it wasn't exactly what I hoped for, and my Sharpie was kind of dying even too. So I'll get all the supplies for my students before then.
Honestly, sometimes it's just like having a reason to get a new art supply.
I know, I love it. That's
I personally don't need a reason. I have 3 sets of that, but yeah. And let's see, Carolee, were you the one that had the geometric? You didn't get a chance to talk about yours. Would you be willing to talk about it?
You are muted as well.
Yeah, let me turn that on. What I was thinking is I used to love to quilt. And right now I'm really into my family, and there's 4 boys and my husband and I. And I thought I'd overlap that and maybe something about the future on a third one. That was all I was thinking.
So fun. Sometimes you need more time than we have to like really develop it further.
Let me put a back white behind it. Now you can see it.
Very fun. Did anyone else want to share theirs? Because
I'm really curious so I was thinking this afternoon about kind of that past, present, future and trying to come up with ideas and then I didn't end up having time to gather supplies and so that I could do it and it's okay. But I was thinking about mine and I had a lot of directions for like my past and some directions for my like the present part of it, but I couldn't I have trouble visualizing the future. I'm really curious if people had ideas for that like future component in that brainstorming sheet of like the concept of like there you are, like wherever you go, there you are. Did anybody have any like future ideas that stuck out to them?
I'm really in the point where my kids are moving out of the house and I hate it. And so my past was we were all together and my present is some are home and some are not. And so my future, I thought about all of us being scattered in different places, but maybe even more people can join my family. And so it was kind of cathartic to think about how it's different, but that's beautiful. So not really school related, but it was helpful for me. So yeah, I felt like that idea of expanding, but also scattering.
I love that.
And
I think with
actually
students
that's totally, sorry. That is totally school related, Alisa, because there are standards about your personal narrative.
And like I know that there's some about community and things. So with students, I can see it being like, kind of a future you want to see or like, a career or something like that, like dreams you have for your future. But I think yeah. I think like I have trouble visualizing it. I'm bad at visualizing my own future though, of like, what do I want to do? I don't
I
know.
didn't even get up to the present. I did like ancestor past
Oh,
and then like high school past. And I didn't even get up to 20 years ago.
that's
But
so
I thought
interesting.
that's really cool.
I love that.
I wanted to share something. I was listening to NPR as I drove my kid to school this morning, and they're doing a whole series about dealing with stress. And they were really talking about today about our students are often stressed out about the state of the environment and how it's going bad, and that they don't feel like they can make a difference in caring for the planet. And so they had these things that you can do where you learn about people who are making a difference in the world, and then you say, they were a baby just like I was a baby. They had a parent just like I have a parent, or they went to school just like I went to school. And doing that helps you feel more empowered. And so I love the idea of doing that, but then also having them envision the future of the planet in a positive way. Kind of what you were just talking about, Sam, was thinking of, yeah, future of the environment or ways that we can care for the earth can help them feel empowered and less anxious about the changes that they may be seeing in the world.
I love that. I was just thinking, even like a using transparency to do like a compare and contrast kind of thing where you could use one layer of like the same and then another layer would go down and like differences.
Yeah.
Something could be kind of like something like visual with that, or I
I
think there's so many ways you can go.
You can also like print on transparencies, which obviously a lot of us that are either went to school old school or taught old school know that. But I know when I was in college, I like found my dad was a teacher as well, and I found a bunch of his old like transparencies that were unprinted on, and I was doing a project that I wanted to layer, and it was nice being able to do that mixed media as well, which like Liz had mentioned, like how even that layering like helps students that maybe aren't as confident in their drawing abilities, but it can also bring in that photography element that you then collage and add on top of or behind.
How many of you guys have ever heard the book? I think it's A Ghost in the House. Have you, for elementary? So the pages, and I don't have it here, but it's just making me think of this book. But it's called A Ghost in the House, and there's every other page is a parchment paper where there's like you see the page and there's like the ghost, or there's just the house, and then you turn the page and it's transparent, so it's the same original picture of the house, but the page gets turned over and you can see this ghost overlaid in the house, and it's kind of a fun book. Oh, yep, Samantha just
Is that it?
yep. There's a ghost in this house. I'm gonna see. But yeah, it's a fun book. It's beautiful illustrations, but then they have this that overlay of it. In a project that we did, we did it like on black and blue construction paper or cardstock with like they used to be called construction paper crowns. Now they're the bright crowns or whatever. And then they use parchment paper with white China markers over the top to just color in a couple ghosts in the kids. And that was like a second, third grade project. You could probably do it with first grade, but on the parchment paper, it was a little trickier. But yeah, it's a beautiful book that kind of has some of this thoughts in it too. So if anyone's looking for a Halloweeny-ish project
Love that.
tied to literacy.
I'm all about the ghosts. I did a spooky mantle over my fireplace and it's all like ghosts and stuff. So I'm gonna check out that
Well,
book because I
if
love the
any of you
ghosts.
are interested, the Dana Coach, who's a BTS teacher in Alpine School District, did this lesson at a BYU BTS workshop, and she shared her PowerPoint, and I can ask her if she'd be willing to let me share it with you guys, and I'm sure she would. So I don't know if either Sophia or Katie, did you go to her workshop at all on Campus Connection Day?
I
Was
did.
it I didn't go to hers, just this last one.
Okay.
I was at hers. It was really cool. I plan on doing it with my third graders this October.
So it kind of has some of that transparency and that translucent quality involved in it. So it's a fun elementary book. But
That's so great. Well, I'm looking at our time, and this has been such a good conversation. I want to thank everybody for sticking with us. Like you said, it's a long time on Zoom, but we really appreciate you being here. We appreciate you sticking with the whole time. Thank you, Liz and Alisa, for leading this workshop. As a reminder, please watch for the survey from Elena Free at E4E. It'll come from, I think, from Springville. You have to complete the survey to get your relicensure hours. She'll send it to the same email that you signed up with in Midas. So watch for that. I will send a folder of resources, including the slides, links, the video we played at the beginning, the Zoom recording, all kinds of things coming by the end of next week. So October 18th, it'll be, but you should have it before October 18th. We hope that you have ideas how to incorporate this in your classroom. And if you use any of these ideas and want to send me some pictures, I will enter you into that drawing. We love to see what you do. And yeah, if you have any other questions about anything, feel free to reach out to us, and we appreciate you being here. So have
I
a
just
great
wanted
night.
I just wanted to say that I was so glad that this was offered this way because there was no way I could get to the original one in Ogden by 5 from Utah County. I just went, no, I can't even get to Salt Lake by then. I just go, nope, can't go to that one. So this let me come because I really wanted to see the murals that they discussed.
That's great. We appreciate that. We think that hybrid options are really important, and we try really hard to make them still engaging. And so I appreciate you saying that, because we really put a lot of thought and energy into how we make our workshops accessible to people. So yay. Great. Okay. Well, have a good night, everybody. Thank you for being here.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Samantha.
everyone.
And thanks,
Bye.
Liz and Alisa.
Yes.
This was fun.